As I like to say, a cranky sewing machine is one thing. A cranky serger is a whole nother ballgame. First of all, to help you keep your serger in top shape, I've come up with a handy essential troubleshooting kit. You'll find a list for all the items you'll need to make your own kit in your class materials. And I would strongly suggest you take the time to assemble all the items in it. So here's what I'm talking about. First off, tweezers. As you find tweezers that come with sergers, sometimes they're good and sometimes not so good. So make sure you have a pair of tweezers that you like. A screwdriver for taking the needles in and out. A serger looper and needle threader can help get the threads where they need to go. Or floss threaders that you can find in the dental aisle of a local store. A needle threader is great, so it makes it easy to thread your needles. A small brush usually comes with your serger. You might also like one of these. It's a mini dust-it, and it really helps pull all the lint out of your serger. Q-tips, oil, a small pair of scissors, and some scrap fabric to test out with. Another handy helper is miniature vacuum attachments that you can attach to any hosed vacuum. They're great because the small crevice tools can really get into all the small parts of your serger. The first thing you want to remember is you want to pull the lint out, not push it in. So you can vacuum, use a small brush like the one that probably came with your machine, or the mini dust-it like this one. Now canned air is a no-no. If you use canned air, where does it really go? Further inside your serger. We don't want that, so remember, vacuuming is best. Next, I'd like to talk about keeping the tension discs clean. Tension discs can collect lint from the serger thread over time, and this can cause them to get sticky and not function properly. Since sewing rooms usually have more fabric dust floating around than other rooms in our house, one way to minimize lint is to keep your serger covered when it's not in use. And if you have pets, covering your serger when it's not in use will keep the extra pet hair and dander from gathering in those precious open areas. Now you remember My Big Fat Greek Wedding, the movie? You will know how wonderful Windex is. You can clean your tension discs with Windex or any other glass cleaner by spraying a little on a paper towel to floss through the tension discs. Let me show you. So first off, what I want to do is take the thread out of the serger. Let's go ahead and clip the threads and remove them. This, of course, will give you practice in threading your machine when you're all done. We're going to take a little of the Windex, spray a paper towel, and then just go ahead and floss that right down inside. It really gets all that lint out and gets them nice and clean. Windex is also great to use for cleaning the outside housing of the serger, the power cord, and the foot control. If you have any type of electronic screen on your serger, use a water-dampened cloth to clean the screen. Next, we'll discuss oiling your serger. So now let's talk about why you need to clean and oil your machine. Since sergers create a never-ending production of lint at the area near the cutting knife, the lint finds itself attaching to the nicely lubricated areas. Once lint becomes attached to the oiled areas, it will then absorb the oil. Then we take our cleaning brushes and remove the lint along with the oil. So let me start and show you how we're going to clean the serger. So we're going to open up the door and make sure you don't blow into it. We want to bring all of the lint out. If you have a small brush, you can get in to some of those areas that might be a little tricky. And if you have a Q-tip, those will also absorb areas that will get the lint completely out of the way. So just get it nice and clean before you add the oil. So for oiling, your serger probably came with oil, but you need a nice light sewing machine oil. You want to notice that right here, as I move the hand wheel, this shaft here goes up and down through this collar. We're going to start by putting a little oil right here. As we move it, that will send the oil all the way around. The other place we're going to oil is down at this pivot point. Give it a little extra shot down there. And if you want to turn it a couple times, that will really give it a nice lubrication where that needs to go. This constant battle of lint and oiling will never end, but don't give up. Keep giving the serger the lubrication it needs to keep those fast-moving parts freely moving. Remember, when non-oiled parts move at a high rate of speed, as they normally do, they become hot. When hot parts are not lubricated, they will eventually seize. Once this happens, it's too late. It's like running a car without oil. There will be problems that your serger mechanic will need to help out with. Next, I'll show you how to diagnose stitch plate problems. Now let's talk about the stitch plate. One of the parts on your serger that you should always keep an eye on is your stitch plate. This is the stitch plate. What we're going to do is remove it, and while we're talking about, we're going to do a little cleaning on the inside. So start by loosening any screws that are already tightened. Sometimes what you can do is kind of twist them with your finger so they'll come right off. I'm going to kind of lift this off. This is also where a lot of lint is going to gather. So it's a good idea every so often to get in here and clean it out. We're also going to remove the foot. So I'm going to just drop that off so you can really see what's going on. Sometimes getting in here with a little Q-tip or your brush can get any really linty fabric out and about. When we're done, just take a look at the stitch plate, and what you see here are some pins. We're going to talk about those next. So first off, we're going to go ahead and put that back on, put the screws back in place. And once you get them started, you will want to tighten them all the way up before you continue to serge. And put the presser foot back into place. And make sure to tighten up those screws with a screwdriver. Okay, now let's talk about problems that can come up. If you ever hear a clicking sound with each stitch, something is definitely wrong. Needles could be hitting something. The stitch plate pins can get bent or broken. If this happens, you'll need to turn the serger's hand wheel slowly while watching the needles and loopers form the stitch. And then just see where that clicking noise is coming from. See if the needles are rubbing up against the loopers or if they're hitting the pins of the throat plate. If they are, you'll need to have your machine looked at by a service professional. Notice a serger's throat plate has small pins near where the needle travels through the plate. Sometimes these pins can get bent or broken, which can cause threads to break. Pins can sometimes be replaced. If not, a new throat plate will need to be purchased. To avoid breaking those pins off, be aware when the fabric no longer is feeding through the serger and starts piling up at the needles. Usually when there is a massive ball of fabric and thread hung up at the needle is when people get in a hurry and pull those pins out of position, or worse, break them off. Now let's go over when you should service your serger. It's important to have your serger serviced every year or two, even if it's not being used. Another sign that your serger may need to be serviced if it's making an ugly noise. If this happens, your serger is complaining about something. Stop and find out why. A dried up serger can run metal against metal for only so long. So if your serger has been sitting idle for a while, you may want to get it checked. It's kind of like your car hasn't been driven for a while. You'd want to get an oil change before a road trip. Another thing I'd like to mention is, when selecting your next machine, do your research and buy from a local dealer. A serger is an investment, so having a knowledgeable dealer who knows your brand and can give you expert advice will ensure that you get the most out of your machine for years to come. Remember, regular cleaning and maintenance will help keep your serger in top working order. So be sure to follow the tips in this lesson. They really work.